Hi and welcome to Random Rogers Big Picture. Special Vegas gave both of us a headache edition. The noise, the lights, the perpetual smell of cigarette smoke did a number on us on Friday as we were getting the hell out of there. Anywho, just thought I'd share a couple of observations, report a couple of things back from my experience in going there. First thing I would say is, in terms of feedback to providers, I managed to chat with a handful of people, not that many. One reader left a question or a thing, boy, I'd like to see an ETF that tracked the permanent portfolio, which of course was a ridiculous question. Oh wait, the permanent portfolio people were there. I was shocked. I thought it was an ETF conference, and it turns out it wasn't. It was broader in scope than that. So to the person who asked about, an ETF tracker of some sort that mimicked the permanent portfolio, the idea is in, at least for me, if not other people previous to me. It's kind of funny. I was surprised at that. I passed along the idea of more fixed income, more currency, more, get your 10% elsewhere type of ideas, all sorts of things along those lines. And so hopefully, that helps. I don't know if it helps personally. I like to believe that it does. But so the Q&A, or the panel that I was on, the focus had to do with global investing and how to use ETFs, which I don't use a lot of ETFs, but it's an important building block for a lot of people as a means of capturing foreign exposure better than, in my opinion, open-ended funds. But the conversation drifted a little bit into things like currency, and the audience was a bunch of advisors. This is going to sound harsh the way I'm saying it, but it's not meant to harsh on anyone. It's more about you taking the bull by the horns and doing more on your own to the extent you want to spend the time. We were talking about currency, and one guy raised his hand, and he said, that really currency is just beyond his experience. He doesn't get it, and is not comfortable making decisions that involve currencies. So this is a guy who, has clients, manages some amount of money, probably more than the little bit that our firm manages, but he doesn't really know. I don't think this is rocket science. It's not easy, to nimbly trade currencies. I'm not saying that for a second, but it's not that difficult to compare and contrast strong economy versus a weak economy and determine, well, at the very least, the wind would appear to be at the tail of such and such a currency. That doesn't always work, but it's pretty basic. And the bigger macro from that is that I came away with is I get the feeling, and I've had this feeling before, is that a lot of guys that have clients, I don't know if they're wearing too many hats or what it is, they don't, as a function of time, they don't follow everything that you might think that they would follow. And so that means that ultimately you, as the client, or not you specifically, but someone who is a client of someone who is wearing a lot of different hats, potentially they don't get exposed to as many new things. And maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. I guess that's for the beholder, that's in the eye of the beholder. But it seems to me that someone who has to do everything at the firm, or for whatever reason just isn't able to spend the time to learn about all of these things. Richard Kang made an interesting comment. He goes, to the audience, well, I hope when you go to a doctor, what do you hope he's doing at night? He's going through the journals, looking at stuff, and it's the same thing for advisors. At night you need to be going through and looking for stuff, which is difficult for the average person to do. That essentially, for my own clients who are watching this, that's all I do is, study all day long. My job is simply to study, and so I am in touch with these things, and the types of things you own probably show that, or maybe they don't. But so as you decide whether or not to hire someone or not hire someone, I think you really need to take that into account. What is this person telling me that they're doing, and is it what I want to hear? Are they spending the time, to find, whatever. The thing that I kind of led off the panel, I was the first one called on, and I talked about, my focus really is, or a big focus for me is, and this has evolved over the last, period of time, is thinking about, okay, this person needs, annualized 10 or 11% for their plan to work. You're not going to get that every year. Some years would be more and some will be less, and the blends together and hopefully, would give you that sort of number that makes your plan work. But I'm focused on how do I get that for people? How do I deliver that for people who need it? And I'll go where I need to go as long as I can maintain, a generally diversified portfolio. I'll go where I need to go to make that happen. I think that's an important mindset for someone who's managing other people's money, or if you're managing your own, hopefully you have a financial plan. I say that a lot. Even if it's your own crafting, there's nothing wrong with crafting your own financial plan, but hopefully you have some sort of a plan. Hopefully you're in touch with what your number needs to be, and you're exhausting all the resources balanced with appropriate allocation and proper tolerance for volatility, and you're giving yourself a chance. All you can do is give yourself the chance of reaching your number, to be sure, but in applying yourself to learning more things, the more stuff you know about this, some will view this op as, completely differently, and I can't probably out-debate them on the point, but the more products and markets and things that you know about, the more resources available to you to bring in that will give you a better shot of reaching your number. To me, that is what, management is about. Even if it's passive management, there are better mousetraps. There are, over 30 years, there's some changes that need to be made, right? I would think, for people who are, die-in-the-wool, is that a saying? Die-in-the-wool passive investors. I am not. I am an active manager. I, make changes when I think they need to be made, and hopefully they are correct. But it was just kind of interesting that a lot of guys that do this full time seem to be behind the curve in terms of knowing what's out there. And apologies to anyone if that sounds harsh, and I'm sure there's plenty of reasons to justify it. But that doesn't change anything that is an obstacle. And really all it is an obstacle that needs to be overcome one way or another so that the client can get their number. Hopefully that doesn't offend too many people. Have a great weekend.